Welcome to Words on the Street of COP30 here in Brazil. I'm Kome Odomo, and today is the second day of Peoples and Justice. And you would agree with me that with a theme that is looking at information, integrity, and workers' rights, you would agree that workers have the right to be protected. The need for workers' rights to be protected cannot be overemphasized. With the right information that these workers are putting out, this is a time for the COP to talk about how to protect the need for workers that propelled into the just energy transition. And workers here now are speaking to the need that their needs and their rights should be protected. Let's go out to speak to people on the streets of COP30 to know what they think about the protection of workers' rights. Let's go.
We need to take into account workers for the transition. We know working is like in the base of all demands, but in the middle of that, we need to think on workers and life. What we are supporting today is the right of living, and the right of living is something that is totally related to fossil fuels. So here in this COP30, I think we are not addressing the main issue. We are not addressing fossil fuels being in the middle of this menace to life, and then they are not addressing the right of workers to work in a healthy environment. So I think we need to advance. We need to advance in the petrolized, not the carbonized, and this advance is only achievable if we leave fossil fuels in the ground.
I really want to just express my concern for a just transition, but from a perspective of workers. Every time people speak about the just transition, we speak about an equitable just transition. But what does that look like? You know, what does a whole of society, whole of economy, just transition look like, and how does it translate to workers? And I think, especially from an African perspective, Africa has the youngest population of young people, or the biggest population of young people rather, when we need to protect their future. And if the just transition is coming, it needs to really lend itself to relevance in terms of what they need to achieve for the future, right? So I really urge whoever's in the rooms in the Just Transition Working Group to really consider that side of things, because the future of Africa really is in the hands of this young population, and we need to protect it from these rooms, and it needs to really translate into like the regulatory frameworks, the policy frameworks, from a regional perspective, from an international level, onto like our countries and our national policies as well.
For me, is that we cannot say this is COP of the truth when we have frontline communities that are being displaced from their lands, when we have defenders that stop ECOP activists. Now, as I speak, they're in prison for drawing attention to human rights violations. So for me, the truth will be truth when defenders who defend the soil, defenders who defend the environment, defenders who defend the communities that are affected by oil and gas are not criminalized, but are recognized. Their work is recognized, and the government is put to a task to defend them. For me, I see that as complete justice, where people who speak to power, where people who defend communities are not criminalized, but they are given space to speak, and they are part of the decision making, and they are contributing to their call to the end of fossil fuel industry.
Today's team is looking at issues of justice, and I am actually here because of injustice. And when we talk about injustice, we are looking at issues of inequality, structural inequality, communities and big corporations, communities and government, authoritative government, oppressive government, and then power dynamics even at the community level. But particularly, we are looking at issues of destructive. And talking about destructive, there are a lots and lots of injustices that is meted out to the people. And in the first place, I'm here all alone from my organization, and all the women working with me and my organization are not here. We actually held the Women Climate Assembly in Port Harcourt, and out of over 200 women that were in that assembly, I'm the only one here because of injustice, because we do not have access to resources to enable at least a little of those women that were at the Women Climate Assembly to be here to speak about the issues, we raised at the assembly and the demands we made at the assembly, and actually to talk about the declaration that came out of that assembly. To me, it's painful. That is injustice because the resources are not equitably distributed. And then let's also look at workers, because we live in the Niger Delta at the frontline communities. And at times, the people in the communities are divided because we think some of the people work in big corporations, and those of us, we campaign against the injustice that the corporations are meting out to the community. Some people feel it's because we don't work in the corporations. But people working in the corporations, how are they being treated? How are they being paid? Are we looking at entitlements, salary, allowances, benefits being equitably distributed among the workers in the corporations? How are the workers treated? And when we look at all this, it is the women that bear the burden, because women carry out a lot of unpaid work to ensure that even the big corporations succeed in their business, in their activities within the communities. All these issues should be taken on board when we talk about the climate crisis, because the climate crisis is actually affecting women in several ways. Anywhere we look at it, women are the ones that bear the burden.
Talking about climate justice, I believe that climate justice must include gender justice, equity, inclusivity, with dignity at its core. And women should be more empowered. And since they're more affected due to climate disasters, should be, empowered and all that.
One word that is on the lip of everyone that we have spoken to here today is the need for people to have justice in the place of work and in the information dissemination. There is need for fairness, there is need for equity, and for people to have the right place to air their voices. And then until we come your way again from Words on the Streets here in Belém, I remain Kome Odomo.